Hi again, it's Michael. I have something for you today. I just got a guitar from a friend of mine and he bought it new. And as this guitar has so many things that I see so regularly on new guitars, I thought about making this video to show you what you see very often on new guitars that you buy from big stores and that are made in factories. And they all more or less have the same issues. And it's quite easy to fix them, and this is why I decided to make this video. It's about this nice guitar. It's a Taylor, but when I say the brand name, it doesn't matter, so I don't want to blame Taylor on anything, because what you will see on this guitar can be seen on any other brand too, so it doesn't matter whether it's a Martin or an Ibanez or whatsoever. So they all more or less have the same issues. I'm speaking about the rather low-priced ones, not the expensive models, because the factories take care. But on this one, it's the typical things. So the first thing that came to my eye was when you have a look at this bridge bone, it's really high. It's amazingly high. When you look on the back, you really can see how the strings go upwards very steep, and then they bend over very harshly over the bone. This is one spot where those strings tend to break. So as soon as they get a little bit older and get a little bit played more, they will start to break exactly on this spot. So that's one issue. This high bone leads to an extreme action height. So when you have a look on the 12th fret here, it is really high. I measured it, it's about 4 millimeters. It should be 2.5 or 3 millimeters maximum. So this is by far too high. And the issue continues when we look up on the headstock. And here again, you see it's not a bone. It's made of plastic, but it's also very, very high. And when you have a closer look, you see how high those strings are. And this leads to a massive amount of work that you need to put in, especially on the first frets, in order to press the strings down. So I really have to work hard here with my finger. And this is something which annoys me, because those guitars are in most cases bought by beginners. And those beginners will have it very hard to learn playing when they get such a guitar into their hands. So what I start with first is taking out that saddle or the nut bone, and for that just take off some tension of the strings. You don't need to take off that much, because you easily can just take them out of their nuts and move them to the side, so it doesn't. So that's okay. And then the question is whether this bone is getting off, because mostly the factories, they glue those bones in, and this is why you need to apply some force to get it out. So to get it out, what I do is take a small piece of wood and a small hammer, and then apply it here, and just with a few, you see now it moved, and that's it. Usually the factories glue them in, but they take just a very, very little glue to fix it. And this one was more or less just glued here with a very, very small amount, so it was quite easy to get that one out. So now there's two ways you can go with this bone. If you have a nut file or a kit to do those nuts, you could start on the top and then you could leave the bone in. But as most people do not have that, this is why I took this bone out, you can work from the underside. So I think everybody has some sanding paper at home. And what you do now is just take this bone and rub it on sanding paper like that. And then you can take away some from the bottom, and by this lower this bone. Before you do that, you should always put it back and take a pencil and mark the height of the fretboard on it. like this, because then you have an idea of how much you can take away from the bottom. On that bone, I would say we can take away about half of that distance of the lower part of the nut and my pencil line. So this is about 1 millimeter that we can take off on the bottom here. So this is what I will do now with the sanding paper. As this is boring, there's no video about it. And before you sand it, there's a simple trick that you should do. Take a flat surface, take your pencil again, and then on the bottom, just draw a line. Take the pen, draw that one line, and now you see here it's a little bit black on this sketch, and this is exactly what you sand away. So you have to control that you do not sand too much just on one side, that you sand it evenly throughout the entire surface. Okay, this I will do now, and then I come back. So now the sanding is done, and this bone can go back in. It fits nicely. It fits very nice. I wanted to show you. Now you see that all those marks that have been there before are gone because I sanded them away. Cleaned it up a little bit, took away all my pencil marks. And now it can go back in. And now this is the reason why I did not take off the strings, because now I have it easy to put them back. And also to squeeze in the bone nicely. Now before I tune them up, I can have a check here and see whether my action height is better now. Showed you. So this is fixed. The action height is playable now. I do not tune up the strings now, because now we take care about the other side. So, and as you see here, this old bridge bone was very high. I've taken off the strings now. And another thing is, it's hard to get out here. So it sticks in here so strongly that I just almost don't get it out. So this is another thing that causes, that takes away sustain, and that in fact affects the sound badly. So that's another thing we fixed. So now what we do, or what I do, I have a new bone here, and I have installed it here in this clamp, but you can also use the old one, put it in upside down, and let point out 1 millimeter again, and then you can just take a file or whatsoever, or a saw, and take away that millimeter. If it is less you want to take away, just let point out a little bit less. If it's more or less, just let point out a little bit more. If you don't have such a clamp here, again, you take a piece of sandpaper, put that bone straight on it, and rub it so long that as it takes to get away that much as you want to get away. Again, I would draw a line on the bottom of that, so that you have control and that you don't get it more on one side and less on the other side, because this is something we do not want. I will use a new bone, because this one looks like a bone, but it's cheap plastic, and I don't want that, because the bone has a much better sound transmission. So I will do that with the bone now, and if you want to, you can have a look how I do it. So for a new bone, what I do is I take the old one and put it on top of the new one, and then if you twist it, oops, you don't see that, sorry, looks like this, and if you twist it around, you see on the other side, you have easy control of letting it stick out on both sides a little bit. So this is what makes that new bone flatter than the old one. And what you then do is you draw the line, which I already did on this one. Hope you see that nicely. So here is the line. And what I do then is I put it in so that the line just peeks out. And if you have a look now, you see here on the left corner that my pencil line is just peeking out a little bit. This is exactly what I want. And now I'm just sawing off the extent. So this is a rough cut along my line, and now I will also cut away this part here. Now it looks like this. Still rough. Looks quite okay, but still is missing the right shape on the top. Needs to go up a little bit more and then just make a good corner for the strings. But this is fine tuning now. That takes a while. Okay, so what we have now is a quite interesting. Let me see that this gets into the focus. So now on the bass side I moved it back, so you see the corner is here in the front and just a small one here in the back. For the G string, which is about here, the corner is on the very front, and for the others, the B and the E string, the corner is just a little bit away from the front and is mainly coming here from the back. I did it this way because the original bone piece or plastic looked like this, and this is obviously what Taylor does for their intonation, and I tested the intonation on this guitar and was quite good, so I tried to copy the shape of this bone now. Now it's time to check it whether it fits in. So now I did some trimming on this bone, just rounded the edges. It made everything nice and smoothly. I did not take away anything more than what you saw, and now it fits nicely in. It sits tight, doesn't move, but it is, with my other finger, easily getting out again. So not so hard as the other one that was in there originally. And when this is the case, that it goes in like it does, it sits firmly in the nut. It's not moving, but it's not stuck in the nut. And this is the difference, because when it's stuck, it's taking off a lot of energy here. But when it's like this, so that it's just firmly sitting but not really stuck, then you have an optimal transportation of the string vibrations to the top. Otherwise, you lose a lot of string energy on this bone. And this is also what we do not want. So now this is more or less ready. Now I can check the action height. The saddle sits here as we did it before. I just put one super tiny little drop of super glue in the middle underneath, just so that it sits in the nut and that the owner of the guitar doesn't lose it when he changes strings. So you do not need to glue that in here, because if it's made nicely, it also sits very good because it has a small nut here where the entire bone sits in. So this is enough, but you put a small piece of glue, a small drop of glue underneath, so just that it stays there and doesn't get lost. Okay, now I put the strings on, and when I'm done with this, I will continue with the video. And by the way, this is another trick that you maybe have noticed or not. I left the strings here on the head and I left them around, because if you take them off and on and off and on, they for sure are going to break. But if you have a small repair like I did now, you can leave them here as they are, winded as they are, because then they will not break. And you just saw I can take them out even if they have a slight tension. I can still take them out of the bridge, and I also get them back into the bridge. That's no problem. So I'm giving away all my tricks today. So I will not tune the strings because I want to check the action height before I do that. So let's see how that looks now. So when you look here on the 12th now, the action height is quite low. And when you look at the first fret, it's also super low. So there's almost needs no work to play up here. You see, there's not much movement in the string, and it's immediately getting down. And here you see, compared to the beginning of the movie, how flat this bone now is, and how nice it looks from the side. And the strings also do not get bent up that strong, and they don't have this strong bending over, so they won't last much longer here now and will not break easily. So let's tune this thing, and then let's see whether everything is working fine. So now this baby's got strings on again. Very nice and low action height all over the fretboard. And now let's see. With this very, very hard pushing, I get the highest amplitude on the strings, and this is what I always do to check out whether there are any spots where it's making noises. Usually nobody plays with this hard attack on the strings, so when that is not making any noises, you can be sure that the player won't notice any noises. So this is done now. Octave is quite good too. I would not go into intonation and fine-tuning of the intonation, because then I would find a lot on this guitar like on any other factory-made guitar. But that's not the issue. The issue was just to show you what one can do with a few easy steps to get a low price guitar at least playable nicely so that it has a good action height, and avoid the most common hurdles to make playing hard for you. So I have a low action height here on the first 3-4 frets. I have a quite nice action height here so that the guitar sounds good, that the strings stay long without breaking. So this was the meaning of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you like my channel, subscribe and check out my other videos. But I hope to see you back soon. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I will try to answer as many as I can. So thank you for watching.